All right, J-Man here with Steve, and we're back in the Gamma Zone. That means we're talking about Incredible Hulk, and we're not doing this chronologically because we talked about the Ang Lee movie. We talked about, well, we did start with the first 6 issues of the Incredible Hulk comic, but we're going to move back to comics, and we're going to go into Tales to Astonish. Tales to Astonish, if you don't know, was a book that had just random sci-fi fantasy kind of stories. And then Ant-Man was introduced in there, and Groot was actually introduced, although Groot was a different kind of thing. He was more like an evil entity that was killed by termites, which is quite awful, but he was a villain. So Ant-Man appeared, or I guess Hank Pym, and then later on, Ant-Man became sort of, I guess, a staple of Tales to Astonish. And then after the Hulk series was canceled, I mean, Hulk was around, but like there wasn't really much, like going on, right? Just random appearances, right? With, I guess, like Fantastic Four, stuff like that. But Hulk regular came back with Tales to Astonish, and that's number 59. And there's your cover of the two of them battling out. Now, Ant-Man was also Giant Man at this point as well. So Tales to Astonish would then basically just be Giant Man, Hulk all the time. You got one story of each. And then eventually it went to Namor and Hulk. And actually from Namor and on, I have the physical copies of all of those, which is pretty cool to have. I am trying to get 59 and on. I'm not looking for conditions. I'm just looking for having the book, so I don't care if the condition is not great. So that's sort of something that I'm working towards. I'd love to have every issue of Tales to Astonish 1 to 101 or whatever it is, but I don't think I'm going to get a lot of those, like first Ant-Man or even number 1. Okay. Now I'm not sure exactly. We're going to keep this pretty loose. We're gonna split this up, and I have to note this on my phone here because he's in a lot of issues of Tales to Astonish. It basically Tales ends, I think, at 101, and Incredible Hulk starts at 102. So there's Incredible Hulk 1 to 6, and then the next issue of Incredible Hulk is 102. That's because Hulk kept the numbering of Tales, and Namor got his own numbering with big premiere issue number 1, which I do have of that, of course. Okay, so to kind of give some kind of breakdown of this, we're going to do Tales 59, which is the one I just showed you, to 69. Now and I've read up to, I'm almost close, I think I'm into the 80s now. So it's gonna be, I've tried to make notes to separate where something is and where something ends. So I don't overlap myself, but it's gonna be hard, right? Because these issues are very like close together, you know what I mean? And when Namor comes in, except for Namor or Ant-Man being replaced by Namor, you can't tell what happened with Hulk because it continues on. It's pretty seamless. A lot of these are one continuous story. It's not like Hulk does an adventure and then it's over. He kind of does, but there's always like something to continue it on. So we're not going to go like in issue 58 or in issue 62 this happened. It's like we're just going to be like anything that's kind of around 59 to 69. If there's overlap into the 70s, well, there's overlap. But we will cover 70 to maybe 89. Maybe 90 to 101. I don't know, but we'll probably do it in 3 sections. I don't want to drag this out for 5 years of talking about Tales. Okay, so what were your thoughts now? So Steve, you're reading these in order from the beginning. Did you skip previous appearances and go right to Tales, or did you read other appearances before this?
No, I skipped. I mean, I did read obviously Avengers number 1.
Right.
And I think I read number 2 where he leaves the Avengers. But I tried to keep it very much okay, so it ends at 6 and it picks up at 59.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Yep, sounds good. And that's actually what I did. That's what I'm doing as well. I have a lot of the Fantastic Four stuff in Avengers, of course. But it's just, I don't even know if the Avengers is definitely before Tales, right? Or no? I'm not even sure.
Yes, the Avengers is before Tales.
Yeah, that's right, because he's gone from the Avengers. He doesn't last very long. He leaves, and they do mention that in here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then so Hulk has very sporadic appearances, but we're gonna try to keep it to, unless it's a key issue of something where we want to talk about it, we're gonna try to stick to Hulk is the main guy. it's his story, not him appearing in other, because then you're going to get into just like a crazy thing where he appears everywhere. So it's going to be because he's part of Defenders, which is like what Defenders, West Coast Avengers, those are like my two childhood favorite teams. So it'd be too hard to cover all the Defender stuff because he's in that a long time and he comes and goes even after he leaves. Okay, so Tales, if you can remember 59 to 69, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like 59, I want people to understand that even though Hulk is really in that and he's on the cover, I didn't feel like 59 was a Hulk story per se. It was Ant-Man and Hulk appears, and from there, they take what he basically was in 59 and continues on with 60 to 69. I think this one is, and I may be wrong because I didn't read like the in-betweens very much, but this is where I think you see like dumb Hulk appear. Right. Like if you look at 59, he's still a little bit like gray Hulk or like the previous incarnation where he has full sentences and stuff. And then like if you get around, I think it's around 63 or 64, he starts just going Hulk mad, Hulk smash, Hulk strongest there is, all that stuff.
Yeah, which is weird because he has a little bit of Banner. It's like he's aware of Banner's mind, but can't articulate what Banner wants to articulate or something. Right. It's weird.
It's weird.
It's very weird. I don't know if the people really understand that this is almost still feeling him out.
Yeah.
Even though there's a lot of issues. Like, the big concepts of Hulk were done in the first 6 issues, and then they expand on concepts like that, and Tales has him going into crazy places. Yeah. But Hulk himself it hasn't really been properly defined as, okay, when he is Hulk, he is stupid and dumb and doesn't like Banner, doesn't know anything about Banner. When he's Banner, he wants to get rid of the Hulk. That's kind of there, but there's a lot of mixing, like he knows Banner, and like sometimes he can be smart and do something, and sometimes he's dumb. It's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely weird, and like this is the one where he's still aware. Like he says a couple of times in like the earlier stuff, oh, I don't want to turn back into puny Banner sort of thing. So he's aware that him and Banner are the same person, right? And then somewhere along the line, he loses that, right? For the longest time, anyone mentions Banner, he goes nuts, but he doesn't articulate why he hates Banner. This is also like if you take this as a flat like jump from 6 to 59, now he's getting angry, and that's prompting the transformations. Where before he had that machine, and then he could do it at will, and then and before that he did at night. So this is the first one where they said he only turns into Hulk when he gets angry.
Yeah, and that was always a better concept.
Yeah,
because like using the machine, like if there's a choice involved, that takes away from the whole point of Hulk being a curse.
Yeah.
Because, well, I'll just turn into him when I feel like it.
Yep.
Night is okay, but you get too into like Wolfman. I know Wolfman's full moon, but you start thinking, oh, is this like a Wolfman thing? See, Wolfman is full moon, and that's a curse. It's like you don't want to be a wolf, right?
Yeah.
So Hulk, like Banner doesn't want to be Hulk, but if you could just flick a switch on that machine and zap him, it's like, okay, well, I'll be Hulk as well, because anytime they need me, I'll zap myself and then I'll go save the day. And then it makes it worse if you still have a little bit of your brain capacity, because you're not even losing control. Someone like a scientist would not want to lose control of their higher functions, which is the whole point of why they're a scientist. They're smart. You don't want to lose that. So that was another thing with Hulk, which, if you have that machine, that was weird.
Yeah, that was weird. And like the problem is too, is that I think what they were trying to say is that when he turns into Hulk, he becomes sort of amoral. He's not a nice guy. And I think they tried to do that. But the problem ended up being that who wants to fall around a guy who could become a lunatic and just kill everyone at a moment's notice? Like that was the problem. Like he was a reluctant hero.
Yes.
And I feel like in 59 to 69, you start to see like he's more of a proper quote unquote hero. He's still not a hero. Like he still destroys stuff, but like he throws his body in front of a missile, and like he grabs the nuclear weapon and he takes it off the train. Like he's doing good stuff. Yeah, exactly. Like see, he's jumping literally right in the like path of a missile. Um, 59 to 69 also introduces two of the most important characters in Hulk mythology, which is Glenn Talbot and Leader.
Yes.
Leader, for me, is the greatest Hulk villain there is, because he's literally Hulk's like doppelganger, except he's evil and he uses his brain instead of brawn.
Right. So Leader so I mean, reading these, so I've been reading these at lunch on my lunch breaks, and I'm looking forward to going every time, and I start getting to the point where I'm just going a little over my lunch to read a little bit more. And oh my God, Leader is the damn best. I'm freaking close to saying that he's my favorite Marvel villain. Like, I don't know what the hell happened. I thought Leader was cool, and then that was it's like, Jason, what do you think of Leader? He's cool. And then we move on to, Vulture or Magneto or something, right?
Right.
Or Doctor Doom or Kang. Those are kind of my guys. And it's like, but like, holy crap.
I know.
The writing on Leader is awesome. I mean, like, he figures shit out fast. And I love the fact that he's super smart, of course, but right away, they write him as actually smart, where he goes, oh, Hulk is green. I'm green. We must have had the same exposure. And you're like, oh my God, like, this is so good. And he creates those humanoid things.
Oh, I love those guys because they're rubber. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you can see the Hulk's fist punching through them.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find like a shot of that.
And like, this is the first time you have I feel a legitimate threat to Hulk. Like, he gets overpowered by these guys. Like, they had the robot, and the robot was fine.
He was neat. I just passed him. I'm just scrolling through trying to find those humanoid guys.
Yeah, the robot was fine, but like, the humanoids were awesome. Like, they just, like, I love the look of them. I love the concept that they're rubber. So, the fist, like, he just punches, because to his point, Hulk just punches his way out of anything.
Right.
And now, like, what if he can't punch it? Then he's like destroyed.
There's Leader.
Yeah. I love that. Steve Ditko was doing the art by this time. Mm-hmm. I really like Leader with the mustache. I don't know why. I love mustache Leader.
Yep. Yeah, like, so, like, here's like the stretchy.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of like he's punching. It's like, ooh, he's going in or whatever.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And then you just add a bunch of guys like that, and you're done.
This entire section was freaking awesome. There was an issue, I'm not sure which one it was, I forgot to note it, where one of the coolest things that's happened was that Hulk was captured, and I'm trying to see if I can find it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He's got this guy who helps him out.
Yeah.
And he doesn't help, like, he's helping Hulk.
Yeah.
So it's like this random guy, I'm trying to see if I can find it. He helps out Hulk, and then he gets killed.
Yeah.
And Hulk's like, what? You killed my friend.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is so good. And he gets rage mode. He's like, I'm going to friggin' destroy everybody here. And that guy becoming Hulk's friend was like the best thing that happened in all of these comics. Yeah. I was so pumped. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's helping him. The Hulk's like, I don't need your stupid help or whatever. But the guy helps him anyways. And then he dies for Hulk. And he's like, oh, they killed my friend. And it's like, oh, friend helped me and all that. You're like, oh my God. And then he's like, you killed him. And you're like, this is so good. And that showed the humanity, because you're right. If you want to do a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing, which is sort of what they wanted to do, where it's like, Hulk has no morals and he's just like kind of an ass or doesn't care. I mean, that's fun. Like, I mean, if you're doing a story like a Jekyll and Hyde, or you're doing a more like sinister story, that's fine. But in a comic book, it's like, look, you want Hulk, you want to sell people on Hulk. You're reading Incredible Hulk. You're not reading Bruce Banner's curse or something, right? If the comic was called The Curse of Bruce Banner or something, then you'll be like, okay, well, Hulk, he's trying to not turn into Hulk. But like, you're reading Incredible Hulk, and you're supposed to get excited for Incredible Hulk. You want to see him team up with other guys. You want to see him fight other guys. Yeah. You're not going to get too into him if he literally doesn't care and wants humanity destroyed. whenever a kid is reading a comic, there's multiple things going on in your brain. You're like, okay, I want to be that character.
Yeah.
Or you want to be friends with that character, or you
Yeah.
want to be in that character's world, right? Like, it depends on the character you're going for. Like, every kid's like, I want to be Spider-Man, and you're shooting webs and all that.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're a kid, you're like, I want to be Hulk. It's like, well, then you're going to just kill all your friends because you don't like humanity. Like, that's weird. You know, and then when, as a kid, you're like, oh man, Hulk's the best. I think a lot of the times it's not so much that you want to be Hulk, but you want to be Hulk's friend. He seems like he's one of those characters. Like when you're a kid, you're like, I'm Superman, da, 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 and you're flying around and you're pretending to fly and you put the cape on. You didn't really, like, if you want to be Hulk, you're more like, I want to smash stuff. But sometimes you're like, oh man, I wish Hulk was my friend. Like, you know, it's almost like you want to be Rick Jones kind of, like, friends with them. And if Hulk's going to constantly beat the crap out of you or say he wants to kill your parents or whatever, then you're like, oh, I don't know if I really want to be, you know, Hulk's friend here. So it's these books start to turn, and that moment is where, like, you kill my friend, and it's like, hey. So Hulk does have a sense of friendship. He has a sense of friendship with Rick Jones, who helps him out as well in these. I think, I don't know, maybe it's not in these. It might be later on. I want to show you. This is a great picture of him fighting like a whole bunch of
man,
guys.
that is just such a great visual.
That is great. So that was actually 64, and we're going to 69, right? So that's like kind of halfway through. Of these issues where he's fighting that. Let's talk about Talbot. Whoa, he came in and he's like, because he's an adversary to Banner and Hulk, like, he doesn't like Hulk and he's trying to take Betty away.
Yeah.
So he's like and then Hulk's got a lot to deal with because Talbot on the human side is doing shit. Ross doesn't like him anyways.
Yeah.
And then Leader is messing with him as well. I love how Leader wants him to be, they want to team up though.
Yeah.
I like that. Like, Leader doesn't want to kill. Leader is probably more, he's his friend, really.
Yeah.
Friends. So, like, Hulk really should, and I think, I don't know which issue this is. This might be past our breaking point. But there's one where, like, he's like, well, maybe I should team up with Leader.
Yeah.
It's like he's the only guy who doesn't want to kill me every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But Talbot, what are your thoughts on Talbot?
Talbot's a great character. And I didn't expect to like him when he came in because you never like the guy who's coming in and trying to take the girl and, like, who's this guy? He just came in, you know, sort of thing. He's the new guy. Again, like, rocks a great mustache. And I just, like, I love the fact he's, like, the actual, like, moral guy. Like, he's sitting there, he's like, listen, Banner is a spy, right? Yeah, look at that. I love, like, just that visual. Yeah. He's just like, he's like, Banner's a spy. He's not patriotic. We got to keep an eye on him. You're sort of also thinking, like, is there an ulterior motive? Is he trying to get Betty? There's one issue I think really up front too, where Betty had, like, I don't know what happened with the coloring, but she almost had, like, gray hair. It was really weird.
Yeah, sometimes you get weird colors in these older books where they just, like, the color guides. There's always a color guide. I actually have a color guide from one of the Avengers issues with that has Namor on it, and they're kind of neat to get. I suggest everyone out there buy a color guide. Go on eBay. They're probably, depending on what page you get and from what comic, they're not that expensive. I think the Namor one was like maybe $30-40, and it's a one-off. These color guides are literally a one-off piece of paper that has the color pointed out for each thing, for the printers or the artists and all that. So those are available on eBay. You should check one out. I've got a Namor one. I had my eye on one that has Captain America and Namor fighting on it. But they're kind of neat. But yeah, sometimes it's like, what the hell happened in this? What happened here?
Yeah, she had gray hair. I'm like, what happened? Did she age suddenly? Like, what the hell?
I can't take it anymore. I love Banner. He doesn't love me.
But this is where you start to see the love triangle, and, like, I guess you get a better sense of why Betty loves Bruce. So it's still kind of weird to me. It just seemed that it's a given that they love each other.
Yeah.
And this is also one where, like, these stories are also where no one knows that Banner and Hulk are the same, right? We haven't established that yet. So there's still that sort of, like, you know, secret identity thing, which, you know, I think Talbot does he almost catch him? I feel like he almost catches it, or he almost figures it out.
He definitely does it in one of these issues. I don't remember which one, if it's in our block or maybe in the next block of comics, but
yeah,
they meet up, and I think it's in the next block where like they're escaping and they fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
And it's like, how could they have survived? You know, and it's like,
yeah,
well, you know, I found the friend getting shot.
Yeah, that's a great one. But these comics were really a product of the time. There's a lot of Russian, a lot of communist stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that with the leader, man. I just loved like the elongated head.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of like communist stuff. Even when he escapes from the Russians. Yeah.
That's a famous one.
Yeah.
That image of Hulk.
That image, yeah, where he's like jumping. Yeah, where the Russians, he escapes from the Russians and he ends up in the hands of like a bandit or something, and the bandit is, yeah, that's the one. And even he's like, oh, I'm gonna keep Hulk and whatnot, and like I'm gonna, he's my prisoner now and whatnot. I'm like, it literally was a bunch of stories where like anything that happened like in like that part of the world was just bad. Like it was all bad. I mean at one point I think the Russian said something like, oh, you like you not communist, but you capitalist dog or something. He says something around capitalism. I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Who would say that?
Yeah, I know. It's like, yeah, it's a product of its time. So when you read these books, you got to keep that in mind. And no, I don't want a disclaimer put on these books. I just want them to stand on their own. But I think anyone who's intelligent, hopefully, is understanding that this is how it was. And even before that, like Captain America punching out Hitler, and it's like, having like, that's the first Captain America, having that be like tying it to real world events, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, because like now, I mean, everyone keeps saying that comics, they're getting too political now because of all this stuff going on in the world today. And it's like, well, they were always a little bit like that anyways. So for me, it goes by the story. Like, look, you need some villains. These were the villains that we had at the time. Banner's a scientist. He works for the American government. The American government is opposed to the Russian government. It's just going to be a natural thing, right?
Yeah.
So and it's like, that makes sense. It makes sense for this story, and there's nothing too specific. Like, Leader is still not on anyone's side, and they're very careful about that. It's like, Leader is still his own villain. He doesn't give a shit about the Russians. He doesn't give a shit about the Americans. He's just like, I don't care. I don't even think they gave Leader's name. I'm trying to recall if they even said, I think it was just Leader just appeared, and they never said who his identity was or anything.
Yeah, you're right. It started out and he was just known as Leader, and there was one of the comics where they actually went into his backstory. I don't know if they called him like by his actual name.
Yeah, I don't think I haven't reached that yet in my I haven't reached that yet in my reading. Yeah,
it was actually like, I think it was like, when I went back and reread, it was in the block. It was like 60 or something, where they did a flashback and he sort of explained who he was.
Yes, but did they give his name?
No, I don't think they gave his name.
No, yeah, they did. They're like, I was a guy working, I was a working man, and then this thing happened or whatever.
Because to him, it doesn't matter. Like, that was his past life. He's now Leader, right? Like, so.
I like that.
And the political thing is funny too, because if you remember, Rick Jones goes to the president.
Yes.
Who is obviously Richard Nixon.
Right.
I want to say, I think it's pretty clear it's Nixon, and he's like, he's the only person. Like, Rick Jones tells him that Hulk and Banner are the same guy, and that's why he can't, like, like, they have to call the army off or whatnot, and like, so technically, for whatever block of period, Richard Nixon and Rick Jones are the only two people who know that Banner and the Hulk are the same people.
The two Ricks. Or the two Dicks. I mean, yeah, okay, so I'm still going through this block here. Leader's doing a lot of cool stuff here. He's building his machines.
Yeah.
his plan starts to come in the next block, I believe, where
Yes.
it starts to get really out there. And I mean out there by like Earth is like not a factor anymore. They start going off into distant worlds here. And yeah, so 70 is where Namor appears. So we're not
Yes.
going to cover that. So basically, we've kind of come to like, I think, have we discussed everything we need to discuss in this block of Tales to Astonish? Because like, it's mostly Leader, the humanoids.
Yeah.
Leader's trying to get Hulk. Talbot's trying to get Betty. Betty during this time has become better in my eyes than she did in the beginning. She actually gets really good, I think, in the next block where she starts to say, "Look, man, I love Bruce. Like, lay off." And I'm like, "Oh, you know, like."
Yeah.
She's like, "Stop calling him a traitor. You know, like this is
Yep.
bullshit. He's not." So I liked that. So Betty got better because she was absolutely non-existent and or just useless in the,
she
in the
was
first Hulks.
the damsel in distress, right? She was the one, like there was one where it's literally, I thought it was like King Kong, where it's that classic thing where he's holding her in his arms.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Betty gets better, and then she goes through this period we'll get to like later where she's just awful. She's just an awful character. I think it's when she got turned into the Harpy. She was just a lunatic by that point. But in this case, she's still, you still sort of get it's not very clear, but you get it. And she's a good counterpoint to Thunderbolt Ross. Thunderbolt Ross is like, seriously, like they're really establishing his character more so this time. And it's like, I really like how he just doesn't, like, he's just like very straight, very, like he keeps his eye on the prize. He doesn't wander off message. Unlike Talbot, you don't sense there's an ulterior motive. He's just like, listen, Hulk is bad. He's going to destroy stuff. We have, Banner is probably a communist spy. I've always had, like, I've never trusted him. And now, I got the Hulk running around. I got Banner running around. They're connected somehow, but it's not good, whatever they're into.
Yeah, and I like that. This is one of the cases, Hulk, Shazam, Shazam. I was going to say Captain Marvel, and then I was going to say no, Shazam. Captain Marvel, Shazam, whatever. They're one of the better identities. Like, it's like, Peter, you're never around when Spider-Man's around, or every time danger happens, you run off. And it's like, if someone is constantly trying to nail Peter and Spider-Man, eventually they should find out that he's the same person. Mm-hmm. The thing with Hulk is that the writing is very precise. Like, they have to make it like it just conveniently turns or whatever. My only, so they've done it pretty well. The only negative is that Banner always appears with ripped, torn clothing, and he's got the same color ripped, torn pants. Like, you would think they'd be like, well, your pants are all torn up. What's going on? But at least when he transforms into Hulk, it's like a transformation of body and size and mind. So nobody who's a generic person is really going to be like, whoa, is that the same, like what he turns into that? That's weird.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen, like, in the Marvel universe, in these Hulk issues, we haven't seen too many people like that. It's not like someone could be like, oh, he's just like Iron Man or whatever. It's like Hulk is not like anyone else. He's a little scrawny guy. That's why I was saying Captain Marvel or Shazam. He's a little boy who says Shazam and becomes an adult. That's a foolproof identity.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no one's going to guess that. Batman, it's like you can guess him. If there's someone who's like Talbot and Ross care about nailing the Hulk and Banner. So they should be able to find out. But the fact that they're not is not super unrealistic.
No.
Because it is tough to grasp your head around the idea that this little scrawny scientist becomes this massive hulking creature. So I can get that. I can understand why they're not figuring it out. It's like Lois Lane should have figured out that Clark was Superman, long time. Well, I mean, she has for the longest time now, but I mean, when it first started, when Lois was first around, she should have been able to figure that out a lot quicker than she did. Yeah. And it was hard for the writers to start coming up with excuses as to why she's such a brilliant reporter, but she's so dumb when it comes to this, right? But Talbot and Ross, I can see it because you're like, well, I mean, how can this be a physical thing? Like he's
Yeah.
transformed. But they know that they're connected, which is smart.
Yeah.
And Leader knows that they're connected,
Yeah.
and Leader's going to definitely put it together. I'm positive, and he's going to definitely put it together. I don't know when he's going to put it together, if it's in the next block or the block after, or maybe even the block after. But
I feel like though that the like I usually how people find out that Banner and Leader and Hulk are the same are, and I think they even talk about this once here, where the Hulk, they'll capture the Hulk and they'll put him in like bondage.
Yeah.
And then he'll turn back into Banner and it will like he'll just slip out and they're like, we had this big guy and now we have this little scrawny guy and they're in the same spot. Like that's just weird. Like obviously they're the same people.
Yeah, it's like but then the excuse is like, oh, maybe Banner like let them loose or something.
Yeah.
That's why they keep saying they're connected and they're working together. It's a comic book, so it's not going to be perfect, but it's better than no one figuring out, Superman's identity, or not nobody, but Lois or Jimmy or someone of that caliber who's there all the time. And Superman's my favorite character, so I'm allowed to poke fun at, the glasses. I take these off. Am I different? But the thing is that, definitely, like, at least there's a better excuse for them not figuring it out right away because, Hulk is a completely different size and looks completely different. So there's, and he's green skinned. But the next block is like very interesting.
Yeah.
And I own all of these. I don't know if I'm going to go pull them out because I do have them all bagged and boarded. So I'll probably do it off the iPad anyways. But the next block is really cool.
Yeah.
So, but this Tales to Astonish, what do you think? Before we'll wrap this up in a minute. But you know what? What do you think about? Because this is something that maybe a lot of people are not used to. What do you think about having the format of these Hulk stories being about 10 to 11 pages? Because the Giant Man is about 10 to 11 pages to form your 22-page, 30-page plus ads or whatever book. Do you like this half and half? Like, are you fun? Because I'm finding the stories are whizzing by.
Yeah.
Like, I'm reading one, I'm like, whoa, that was crazy. And then I'm right into the next one. And sometimes I'm like, holy shit, I'm already into the next one. So what do you think about that format of having two different stories in a book, an anthology book?
I think generally I like it. I'll tell you the one thing I don't, but like generally I like it. I think it's a smart format to sort of test like, issues to characters who you're thinking maybe I'll give them their own, but I'm not sure. So let's like try it out.
Yep.
Right. And see if people respond to it. I think it's really smart. It does go very fast. And like, because of that, you never feel like, there's some comics where, especially when they start really getting into like setting up the atmosphere and something, it can get a little bit like, okay, get on with it sort of thing. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen sometimes.
Yep.
Some of the longer ones. I think the one negative I would say against it is, and I found this was, especially with some of the Hulk stuff, obviously, is it went so, like I wanted this story to resolve, and it doesn't resolve. So if I was a kid and I had to wait for that, I would be like slamming my head against the wall. Like, I agree with like we've been wanting more of that concept, but like there's some things where I'm like, you could have wrapped this up, and you didn't.
Yeah, it's almost like they wanted to continue. Like it's like a serialized. They just wanted to continue on, and that's a little bit, but. Yeah, that is true. That's true. And it's not as obvious when you're a kid because now you're like, oh, I got to get Tales. The good part is that it's a brisk read. It's fast. You get two different characters. So, but what if you don't like Giant Man?
Yeah.
Then you're paying full price, and you're only reading half of the thing.
Yeah.
Now the next block is Namor and Hulk, two characters that are in my top 10 favorite Marvel characters of all time. So that was a no-brainer for me. And the Namor stories in that are the reason why Namor is in the top for me because of those stories. And I read them through the phone book collections, which are called the Epic collections.
Yes.
No, not Epic. Epic is in color. Essentials.
Essentials,
The
yeah.
essentials are the black and white big ones.
Yeah.
And I read all of the Namor stuff and I was like, wow, Tales is great. And then I went back and bought them all. But yeah, it's an interesting format. I think it's good for trying out new characters.
Yeah.
I really like, Tales of Suspense, Tales to Astonish. I liked all the team up stuff, Marvel team up like Spider-Man. I like 2-in-1 with Thing.
2-in-1. Yeah.
I like where you have your one guy and then every issue he's with another guy. I love Brave and the Bold, the comic and the cartoon of Batman. That might be my favorite Batman cartoon. If not, it's my second favorite next to the animated series, easy. But I like where it's like, because I found that there's more hero action in those than when you read Spider-Man. Because when I read Spider-Man, I've been going through some of the old Spider-Mans, there's a lot of teen drama going on before Spider-Man shows up. And you're almost like, man, if this was in Tales to Astonish, they'd probably eliminate 3 or 4 pages of teen drama, condense that, and then have the Spider-Man action. Like, when you're looking at these 10 or 11 pages of Hulk, you're getting like maybe 2-3 pages of, quote unquote, non-Hulk, Betty, Talbot, whatever. And then you're getting like 70% of it is Hulk fighting guys or, doing some kind of thing with the leader or whoever. So I'm like, wow, this is like very exciting. I almost wish comics would maybe even go back to that or have less. Like, we don't need 17 Spider-Man books. You're following my X-Men stuff. I mean, it's endless. I'm gonna have.
I know.
I've talked to my wife about this. I've went through it myself. I'm gonna have to start eliminating things from this channel and trying to be more laser into X-Men and maybe just do Captain Marvel on the side because some people like Captain Marvel. We're gonna keep Gamma Zone because I like Hulk and people seem to like these videos a lot. So we're gonna keep Gamma Zone going, but it's like there's so much X-Men stuff that if you cover anything other than X-Men, you're gonna lose out on X-Men. Like, I had to stop reading Spider-Man because there's so many books, Superior and like back in these days, you got Tales to Astonish, you got 2 characters. Tales to Suspense, Tales to Astonish, you got 4 characters in 2 books. And I wish they would do that or at least streamline themselves. And this streamlined way of telling stories in comics always worked for me. So I always liked that kind of aspect. But yeah, if you don't like the other character, it's kind of, but Giant Man's okay. And I didn't read the Giant Man. Did you read the Giant Man stuff or no?
No, I didn't read the Giant stuff. Me
neither. I didn't read it either. And it's nothing against Ant-Man, because I did buy his digital collections as well. I do like Ant-Man and I find it interesting, but not interesting enough that I want to read, but maybe I'll go back and read those. Maybe I'll see how I feel, but right now I'm just trying to power through these Hulks.
Well, I like the thing about Tales is you really need characters who are almost antisocial to make it work, because you're not going to have a lot of supporting characters around you. Spider-Man has always been like an outlier because he's always had like a consistent large cast of characters around him.
Yeah.
So I guess they feel they need to devote the page space and the time to that. Whereas Hulk is antisocial, Namor's antisocial.
Yeah.
Giant Man in a sense is antisocial. Like, he's weird, like he's definitely one of the weirdest Avengers, but like, you need that guy who's not going to, like, there's not social interaction with Hulk. Hulk is like, shows up. I think there's Tales to Astonish in the next block where literally the entire issue is Hulk fighting someone.
Yeah.
Like, I think it works in that format. If you want to build a larger cast of characters and sort of, I hate this term, but like flesh them out.
Yeah.
You have to give them the longer book to do that. So.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Spider-Man works because there's so many supporting characters and so many villains.
Yeah.
You can rotate them all every month, and you're gonna after a couple of years you can start again, and by that time you haven't seen Vulture in 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like you can like Spider-Man has 24 villains that you could cycle through one a month. By the time you get back to Mysterio or Vulture, it's been 2 years and you don't feel like he's being overused.
Yeah.
Interesting point. Yeah, it's because Spider-Man has such a vast character base. It's like there's just so many guys. Hulk, yeah, it's more like just get to it. Namor, it's anyone in Atlantis. There's not really anyone else. He interacts with Daredevil and Iron Man and stuff, but like, yeah, mostly it's Namor doing his little adventures in Atlantis and all that. So it's easier to do it that way, I suppose. But I wish they would do something more in current comics where they would streamline it. Like we certainly don't need as many X books as we have.
Agree.
Some of them seem like they're just there just to have the name there, or it started out with having more focus. I don't want to get into X-Men. That's off topic. But anyways, so yeah, Hulk. I love these Tales to Astonish. I'm loving the next block because I'm already past the next block. I'm into the third block now, and they're awesome. So after this, it's going to be right into Incredible Hulk. All right, so we'll wrap it up there. If anyone has any comments, let us know. If you guys want us to talk about a certain Hulk thing or go more in depth with like one issue or something like that, we can look into that. But anything else to add, Steve, on this first block of Tales?
Nope, it's definitely a must read. If anyone wants to get into Hulk, you have to read this because two of the most important characters are introduced here. So like, give it a shot if you haven't. Like, there's no reason not to. These things are readily available. They're on the iPad. Yep. Just give it a shot because the leader is literally one of the best characters ever created in comics.
Yeah, he's so damn good. I'm trying to look for a statue or something. We'll talk about leader when the big brain.
Yeah.
He's got the big brain thing versus like the dome. The dome heads or whatever. All right, anyways, we'll get to that another one. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.